Today, 32 of RimWorld's best hand-to-hand combatants will fight to the death in a winner-takes-all illegal fighting tournament for the grand prize of as much treasure as their little fingies can hold. Where does this tournament take place? In a drug lab. Well, actually behind one. You see, the drug lab is just a front, so the cops don't investigate the combat arena in the back. The fighters arrive. Each of them was hand-selected for the tournament after responding to an ad on Craigslist. These combatants have ample martial arts and ass-kicking experience, but not all of them have a reason to be here other than greed. But not main character. He showed up to this tournament to win the money required to pay for his daughter's life-saving medicine. Side character has an upset stomach, and main can't afford the Pepto-Bismol to make her feel better. Main anxiously waits alongside the other fighters in the drug lab to be greeted by the host of this tournament, Katze Krankenwagen. Mr. Krankenwagen explains the rules. Each fight is to the death, each fighter will fight once per day, and there are no other rules. Oh, and the fighters can help themselves to as much yayo as their little hearts desire because their storage rooms are too full. After the introduction, one of Krankenwagen's goons escorted Main to his sleeping quarters, the Swamp Room. It is the only room in the building with plants, and without a roof. We also didn't add any flooring to this room except this one tile, as it requires us to research moisture pumps, and I just don't care that much for the comfort of our fighters. But main character ignores the discomfort and immediately fell asleep, dreaming about monkeys. There are 16 fights today, and Main is participating in the first one. He prepares himself for the brawl ahead, as his first opponent is Scrappy Peglegs. She gets her name because she has, well, 2 peg legs. But Main thinks he can take her, as his martial arts training consists of 2 years of Taekwondo at the local YMCA when he was 12. Upon reconsidering his combat experience, Main opts to instead go for a defensive strategy and let Scrappy come to him. The fight begins, and Scrappy is moving towards Main as fast as she can. It feels kind of cruel to watch her struggle to make it to Main. Oh, come on, man, that's just being a dick. But as soon as she reaches Main, she gets the ass beaten of a lifetime. With this victory, Main moves up the bracket and ever closer to saving his daughter from an easily remedied upset stomach. Since Main has some time to kill post-combat, he decides to check out another fight, and it's a fucking bear! Like an actual bear! Will Main have to fight this beast? Surely he can't win. Yeah. It's a problem for another day. Time to dream about that 90s docu-series Eyewitness. Suddenly, Main was woken up by Krankenwagen. Krankenwagen is telling all the fighters to grab a gun. He then makes the fighters load drugs onto the compound's big boy trucks. When finished, everyone boards up in the vehicles and leaves the compound. They drove for hours until they finally stopped in a remote location where Krankenwagen explains that his henchmen have gone on strike, demanding better working conditions and more free drugs, which he wasn't willing to give them. But to fund this whole tournament, somebody has to sell the drugs because Krankenwagen lost all his money in a poker game against
Severnus Capernian, ruler of the Seven Suns.
I bet you have questions like, who the fuck is that? Don't think too much about Severnus, this story isn't about him. Anyway, they are meeting the buyer of the drugs tonight. As the buyers arrive, Krankenwagen assures his fighters they won't have to shoot anyone. Just let old Krankenwagen do the talking while you stand there and look tough. Shoot them all! It didn't go as planned. Die for Krankenwagen! Krankenwagen, Main, and 3 other fighters escaped, while the rest were turned into Swiss cheese. And this truck won't shut up! Like, we get it, you're exploding. Everyone was pretty shook up about the firefight. I mean, these guys are martial artists, not gunfighters. It seems the hand is in favor of the hired goons, as they are elite marksmen and would have handled the situation much better than the tournament participants. So Krankenwagen reluctantly re-enters negotiations to end the strike. He does spend most of the time, though, discussing his new Jurassic Park Donnie Darko fanfiction, Dino Darko. But he does come to an agreement. He's gonna call his goons pretty instead of handsome, as well as increase their drug intake from 1 kilo a day to 5. With the strike now over, the fighters gain a rest day as Krankenwagen and his henchmen set out to sell the drugs needed to fund the tournament. Main gets to training, punching a bag, and watching YouTube fight compilations. And when Krankenwagen returns, he has an announcement. Since 12 of the 16 fighters for the next round of the tournament died in a unavoidable situation, the fighters get another rest day as Krankenwagen and his goons will go recruit more fighters. The goon squad drives to the nearby tribal village and begins recruitment. And by recruitment, I mean they launched firebombs at the town, then tranquilized the tribals they flushed out. They picked the 4 toughest fighters to recruit and disposed of the rest. Instead of 4 remaining fighters, we now have 8. Main is informed of his next opponent, KibblesJack. This is a mean son of a very nice lady. Pickles has spent 18 out of 30 years of his life in the joint for 62 counts of pickle smuggling. I have no idea what I'm implying by putting pickles in quotations. I was kinda hoping you would tell me. This is going to be the toughest of the, 2 fights Main has fought / is going to fight so far. My god, Main! I get this is like a fight to the death, but bring it down a little bit. You don't have to be at an 11, bud. Bruised and bleeding, Main got patched up by the henchman's school nurse. Yeah, we have a school to teach future henchmen how to be good little goons. It's located right next to the drug lab / fighting arena. With bandages wrapped around his body, Main retires to his swampy chambers. Lying in bed, Main contemplates if it is worth it to go on, but he thinks of his daughter and how the pain he feels pales in comparison to her stomachache. Side note, all those tribals we recruited lost their fights this round. Well, except one, but 2 tribals were forced to fight each other. Now who could have come up with such a devious idea? Oh, and the tribal is fighting the bear next. Good luck! Main prepares for the semi-finals, eating a hearty meal and doing his dancey dance with the remaining tribal. Ooh, kill him. Aw, looks like he is done dancing. But Main is still killing him. Main has to take his semi-finals fight seriously, as his next opponent is Big Joe. He literally killed his last opponent in one punch. My money's on Big Joe. With Main determined to fight this out for his daughter's sake, he charges his opponent, ready to battle to the death with a man 3 times his size. Oh, hang on a second. Looks like we're being attacked. I gotta dispatch the henchmen to deal with it. Fortunately for them, they're not gonna get a refund on their $20 tickets to the fight. When the enemies were taken care of, the henchmen have to rebuy their tickets. And they make it back in time to watch the end of the fight. Wait, that's it? I was hoping to see the whole thing. Hopefully someone recorded the fight on their phone. Let's see here. Oops. Looks like that phone was connected to the C4 we stored in the henchman's school. With main character's victory, he advances to the finals, where he will have to face off against Mr. Bear, who, as we expected, won his fight. However, the final round will take place tonight. Turns out, Krankenwagen needs to end this event by tomorrow, because he has another poker night planned with God King
Avernus Capernian, ruler of the Seven Suns,
and he intends to win his money back. Turned around and shoved back into the arena, Main analyzes his current situation. If he wants to save his daughter from mild discomfort, he has to fight an adult grizzly bear. Fear overcame Main. I mean, he literally has to fight a man-eating bear. But then he remembered that time he was a little bit buzzed on some Sunny D seltzers and made a tier list of animals he could beat in a fight, and he had put grizzly bears in the 50-50 chance tier. Confidence surged within him. If the tipsy Main thought he had a shot, then there is hope. And combine that with the knowledge that no motivation was stronger than his, he will be victorious. But for shits and giggles, let's take a peek at why Mr. Bear is fighting in this tournament. Oh dear, Mrs. Bear has an upset stomach. Just like Main's daughter. And since Mr. Bear obviously doesn't possess any currency, because he's a bear, he can't afford to buy Mrs. Bear her stomach medicine. So he answered an ad on Craigslist to fight in this tournament so he can fill his bear arms up with as much gold and silver as he can carry. Mr. Bear won't let anyone stop him in his quest, not even main character. Excuse me? Oh, Mr. Bear must have stepped on an IED that was left in the arena after the henchmen were playing Minesweeper between the fights. Well, looks like Maine won the tournament. Congrats! But Katzenkrankenwagen offers Maine a choice. Leave now with one armful of riches, or beat the undefeated Krankenwagen in a fight tomorrow and receive all of the treasure. Maine thought for a second about how he has reached his goal, and his daughter can be saved. And then he remembered greed is so in right now. Maine will fight Krankenwagen tomorrow, but first, more dreams about monkeys. This is it, the final fight. Everything comes down to this. Maine has beaten 3 tough fighters and avoided getting his arms ripped off by a bear. All he has to do is beat the undefeated Katzenkrankenwagen. As Maine lies on the dirt floor, he cursed Krankenwagen for cheating. But Krankenwagen just tells him to recall his first speech. He only ever said fights were to the death, and there will only be 1 fight per day, which they did break that rule. But he never said firearms weren't allowed. Now that that is taken care of, Krankenwagen retires to his room, boots up his PC, and posts a new Craigslist ad for yet another fighting tournament. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video or are a really cool person, you should check out my last video where I started an apocalypse by transforming the entire planet into furries, and then obliterated the failures.